Okay, great. Hi everyone. Hopefully you can hear me okay, and if not, let me know. Today I was just going to run through generally what ePlacement Scotland the project was, what the general message we tend to give to students is, and also what sort of resources we have available for different people. I am Gemma Webster. I'm the Further and Higher Education academic for the project. The project is actually a partnership between Edinburgh Napier University and Scotland IS, the trades body for the IT sector in Scotland. So myself based at Edinburgh Napier along with Colin Smith and Sally Smith. And at Scotland IS we've got Jamie Duncan who does the employer engagement and helps create the placements, Nicola Taylor who does a lot of support for the candidates and candidate matching, and Polly Purvis for the lead of the project from there. Now, first off, I thought I could just run through some general points and the general message that we give to students when we go out and do engagement. And then after that, I could show the website and services that we offer, and then run through some resources and different types of events that we have run previously. If at any point you've got any questions, please just pop them in the chat and I'll try and answer them as we go. So ePlacement Scotland is not a recruitment company. We are funded by the Scottish Funding Council. The project started in 2010 and it's currently funded until July 2019. And the aim of this project was just to help make available quality paid placements for students studying computing, computer science, software engineering, or really any IT or digital subject for any Scottish university or college student. And the main reason for this funding was that it was to help encourage students to get some practical industry experience while they're studying. With the students, I would normally ask them why was the main reason we do this, and part of this is that a survey of UK-based employers reveals that the three most important factors for graduates are, and unshockingly, the number one factor is work experience. The first thing they will look for on a student's CV is whether or not they've got any relevant experience in the industry, which is very difficult for students to do while studying and balancing their lives. So this is why it's really important that we can kind of promote placements as much as possible to students so that they can get the experience for on their CV. So one of the main reasons we do this, and we do this across the whole of Scotland, is that it's really of great benefit to students who've done a placement. Students who've done placements feel more confident about the world of work. They have a greater awareness of what's going on in the industry. They can see why these teamwork and interpersonal skills that you've been teaching them are coming into use and how it's really helpful in industry. A lot more of them will feel a bit more ready for when they are coming to finishing their studies because they've now undertaken sort of work placements and they can see what the industry is like and they can see how their skills are transferable. It's really a great opportunity for them in terms of networking and starting to get their career networks ready. And it tends to open more opportunities when they finish studying, partly because their CVs can be in the top of the pile because a lot of employers are saying to us now that they look for students with experience as one of the first things they look for on the CVs. Also just because I think they're a bit more confident, they've done a CV previously, they've been out there and they've done interviews, so they know what's coming when they're getting ready. Another interesting thing is that if students who've taken out a placement have often found that when they return to study they actually do better in their current studies than they had previously, and this could again just be from confidence and new skills that they've learned in the placements. So why is ePlacement Scotland important, or why should they use us? So we tend to be a source of placements in companies that the students may have never heard of before. Because we work with Scotland IS, they do a lot of smaller to medium-sized enterprises, and these tend to be a lot of the companies that come up on our website for placements. We do not work with companies that have already got established relationships with an institution, so we're bringing in placements that are new and different, so more opportunities for students. One of the great things about working with Scotland IS is we can have a real range of placements from startups that are really looking for talent to get in and there to more established companies that are larger and that are just weren't sure where to start or how to connect with students. We get a lot of companies that come forward and say that they would like to do placements but they don't know where to start. How do they contact the universities and colleges? How do you go about meeting students? How do you recruit students? And this is one of the things that we can really help support. And Scotland IS contacts Jamie and Nick do a lot of work with the employers to make sure that they're aware of, one, what is an appropriate level to be expecting from students, how you can go through the process of recruiting students, and also just to really support the whole process so that it's smooth for the employer and the student. This slide can be personalised depending on the institution I'm visiting, and this is where if you encourage placements or if you have placements that can be part of one of your courses or a particular module, we can put in details about this here so that we make it students aware that it ties in with their current studies. Also, we have a range of different styles of placements, so we do a lot of summer placements between years. We also do sort of year-long placements for students who want to get more experience. We also sometimes have part-time and flexible placements, so students that can do it while working and on top of their studies, which are really quite popular. One of the things that we're trying to promote now is that there's a lot more types of placements for students who possibly aren't sure what they want to do when they graduate or aren't particularly keen on just being a coder or a programmer. And we're finding more and more now that different companies are coming forward. So the bulk of our roles are in software development, software engineering, but we have as many roles in web development. We've got data scientists, we've got designers, IT support, digital marketing, user experience. So we have quite a lot of different roles that come up and different roles that it's really good opportunity for students to try and see what sort of placements they would be interested in doing. So there are only two criteria for taking part or doing a ePlacement Scotland placement. One is that they have to be a student studying at a Scottish university or college. They don't have to be a Scottish resident for that to be the case. Often, depending on the student, their visa does allow them to do work over the summer or so much work part-time, which is normally suitable, but they have to be studying at one of our Scottish universities or colleges, and that they must be returning to study. And that rule is really in place so that we don't become a service that graduates try to use thinking that they will take the 3-month summer placement and then hopefully the company will take us on. We're really trying to promote the benefit to doing a placement while studying, and we also don't want employers thinking that it's a route into recruiting a graduate or a finished student. So the service is actually quite straightforward for students. I'll take you shortly to look at the website, but basically the students register for the website and it asks some basic questions. Now part of this is for our recording to know where our students are and what type of roles they're interested in, and part of this is so that the students can get sent job alerts about the type of role that they're interested in. If one comes up, they'll get an email. Once they've registered on the service, they upload a CV. If they see a role that they like, they can type in their cover letter, hit submit, and they get the cover letter and CV gets sent to the employers. So we tried to keep the service quite simple. It's not a really heavy recruitment scheme process where there's lots of questions. And this again is just to help keep students engaged and hopefully using the service quickly. At this point, I think I'll jump out and show you the website quickly. Okay, so this is the website we've got. As you can see from here, we've got sort of 3 different views. We've got students information, employers information, and university and colleges. For students, if we click view all, they can see specifically what types of jobs we've got going, or they can look for a specific type of job they're looking for, if there's a set discipline, or if they've very set locations. As it happens to be this week, we've got quite a lot of roles that are around Edinburgh and Glasgow. The roles sort of come in batches depending on the time of year, to be honest. So we have quite a lot of roles that come up just before Christmas and shut before Christmas. We had a few sort of a batch of roles in January and February. Again, sort of start of March, there's a lot of roles have started closing, but again, we'll still get more roles up, even up until June, looking for students to start in this summer. Part of that is to do with, I think, the different size of companies, that some companies are aware a year in advance that they will be taking a student on. Some companies decide 2 months before that they've got a project that a student could work on. In general, all of our roles are based around Scotland. We do occasionally have them in different places, like there was one on the previous page in Ireland, and there is one, I think at present, in England. Yep, Central England. We occasionally have them in London as well. We have found that they're not quite as successful with the students. The students tend to like roles that are within their travel vicinity. So we do tend to focus on trying to create more roles within local areas. Just jump back to the website now. So, but our website is mainly sort of focused, and it's quite straightforward for the students to register and use the service. Again, one of the things we try to promote a lot to students is about using their career services and their services already available within their institutions. Part of this is feedback from employers, and part of this is making some students really aware how much the services are there. So I normally start by asking how many students already have CVs made, and how many of them have had them read by someone else, because it's surprising how many employers come back and say some of the CVs that have came in have had a typo on the first line, which again, if they'd been using their career services, would never happen. We also promote the fact that there's a lot of support in terms of doing interviews and test centres and assessment centres, so that when they're going for interviews or application days, they know what's coming and they feel prepared and confident about going into it. This slide again is often tailored depending on if there's specific contact details of someone that they should use, if there's specific drop-in services. We can really make this quite personal for the group of students that we're talking to. We then again try to promote social media as another route. We put all of our roles up on our Facebook and our Twitter feeds and try and get students to look at that way, so that they can see quickly the different types of roles and really get active about finding out sort of what's in job specifications and what's available out there in terms of different types of placements for students. Mainly the simplest thing that we try and sell to students is the fact that this is quite a straightforward service to use for them. It's not an additional task to complete on top of their studies. Once they've registered on the website and they have their CV, any roles they like the look of it is as simple as hitting apply and their CV will go to it. It's really just that straightforward. So that's the general message I tend to give to students when we're out visiting. I'll run through some of the different resources that we've now got available for students. So we have a video which is actually about 4 minutes long, so I won't play it today, but I can make that available. But again, it's a video that's based on feedback we've had from employers, and it's just basic skills that I think you've probably already been telling your students, but it's another resource, and it's information about how to get their CV ready, how to be prepared and do research for an interview before you attend it. Simple things like this that we again find employers feedback to us saying, oh, the student was late for an interview, or they weren't able to answer the question, why do you want to work for us? So simple things to make students really think about different ways to be prepared and feel confident going into it. We've also got some other types of resources that I've put the PDFs up of, but I'm happy to send paper packs out to people if you're interested in having them. And again, if you think the materials would be helpful, we can send out resources so that you can provide them to your students. So the first one, if we look at it, is the college handbook. So this is just a booklet that I'm happy to send out, and it just really says about sort of who we are, what we can do. We've got some employer and testimonials from students who have actually been from college and went out and did a placement. Because one of the things that we find that's really great is getting students to hear from other students who are in a similar situation that have done placements and make them realise that it's something that is accessible to them. So it's just really some basic information about how placements work and what we can do and how to contact us. The next resources we've got is postcards that we tend to hand out to students when we're visiting. Again, we tried to make them quite informational and useful for them for other parts. So this one is how to write a cover letter, and it's just like really basic steps about what a cover letter is and how to keep it. We've tried to keep it really simple so that students can see that this isn't a big task, that it's something that they can do quite straightforward. The next one is, again, it's a similar postcard, but it's about writing your CV. So it's got some tips on sort of CV write in and some information about sort of things like keeping it to 2 pages, spell checking. But again, trying to keep it really light and simple so that the students can see it's something that they can do quickly. The next resource we've got is a poster. So again, this is just an example of one of the posters that we have for the service. And then we've got another poster example, which is just trying to show to students that there's more types of roles available to them. The students with digital and computing skills are in such demand now that there are so many different opportunities available to students, and they're not always aware of it, so trying to make them realise that there are options. And then finally, there's a postcard that just says the simple steps for registering on our service. So I try and show that it really is quite straightforward for the students to use the ePlacement Scotland service. So I'll just jump back to the presentation. So finally, the sort of events that we've done previously. So we do a lot of lecture drop-ins, which would be where if the students are already in a class, that we tend to drop in for the last 5-10 minutes and just explain what the project is, what the benefit of doing a placement is, and try and make students realise that it's something that is an opportunity for all of them to do. We find a lot of students say, oh, well, I wouldn't get a placement, and we think, yes, you would. Make them realise that it's worth trying for and it's something that they can do. We can come along to induction events if you're having any induction events with students that you think, we can come with stalls, or we can come along and just again give 5-10 minute presentations about what we do and how to get a placement. We come to careers fairs as well. We do tend to find actually that the drop-in sessions seem to be quite the most successful, partly because I think at careers fairs you get the very engaged students who've already thought that they want to get a placement, so they're coming along to find additional information, whereas at the lecture drop-ins you can get more of a general audience, so get more students aware of placement opportunities and why they should be doing one. We can arrange things that we call tech talks, which is where we bring an employer in to your institution. Again, these are quite successful if we run them in a slot that the students are already expected at, and we get the employer to come in, and normally we ask them to bring sort of a recent graduate or a recent employee to say what they did, how they got this role, what it's like working for the company, what they look for from students. So it just really makes students see what types of placements what type of roles are available and what different types of interests there are. And finally, one of our quite popular events with students is speed networking, which is a little bit of a play on the concept of speed dating. So we will bring in sort of roughly 5 employers, and we would bring in sort of say 30 students, but not more than that. We'd split the students into small groups, and they would get 10 minutes with each employer, and each employer would explain what their company does, what they look for from students, how the students could engage with them. And these events work really well because what we find is in the smaller groups, the quieter students don't feel overwhelmed by a class, so sometimes feel more comfortable to ask questions. But equally in the smaller groups, everybody feels more informal and feels like employers aren't quite such a scary event to go up and speak to. And these are actually quite good events, and we often find that students tend to say, I felt really confident, and they'll go back at the end and hand their CVs over or speak to employers, which is really quite the positive point of the speed networking events. And employers tend to say that they're really good in the terms that they speak to a lot more students in a lot less time. And because they get to speak to the students on a more sort of controlled one-to-one basis, the students are able to find out a lot more about their companies and the opportunities available for them. Okay, so that's sort of the overview of the project. My contact is just gwebster@napier.ac.uk, so if anybody has any questions or wants any more information after, please do get in touch. But I'm going to hand back to George now, and then we can have any questions if anyone's got anything they would like to ask.